on CBS Sports Radio. CJ, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, BT. How are you, man? Flying
Oh,
solo today, huh?
yeah, Tiki is out, but have no fear. Running back will be back tomorrow. So, yeah, it gives a chance to maybe squeeze an extra guest or two. And I read what you wrote. Well, it was a very, very good and a very different look at, how people look at what happened. What I think, here's my quick read on the situation. I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, whether it's age, whether they view the game, the different prism, the way we view sports, it's changed quite a bit. I think people are having a tough time separating performance and personality here. And what I mean by that is Bryce Harper's going to win the MVP. So a lot of fans are giving him a pass, at least the ones I've encountered. And because Paplebon's been, a bit of a clown, bit of a hothead, a divisive personality, he is being positioned as being 100% wrong, which I totally disagree with. So I think people are allowing their reputations a bit to blur how they read this situation. You agree?
100%.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I mean, that's where people are. And as I watched this whole thing go down and seeing the play on Sunday and then seeing the comments on Sunday night via social media, and not just fan comments, you always have to take those with a grain of salt, but even media comments. And I'm kind of watching them go across. I'm like, wow, it is consistently across the board. Everybody is anti-Paplebon. And as I'm watching, I'm like, this almost seems like this is more based on his personality because of his history. And I felt like people were not being objective to the situation and really digging into what happened right now. I mean, I understand when you have a reputation, maybe you're going to go ahead and lean one way when something happens because the guy has been involved in other things in the past. But I think we have to be better than that. You have to be more objective. And so I started digging in a little bit. And absolutely, the prevailing attitude amongst media and fans was Paplebon's fault. I decided to reach out to a bunch of guys. I probably contacted 30, 35 guys, former and current players, and I wanted to see what they thought. I don't want just my opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the complete opposite. It was unbelievable. One after another basically said the timing was bad, but it had to be done. I would have done the same thing. A lot of that stuff consistently. And it wasn't just a bunch of old guys that don't like Bryce Harper. They love him as a player. They know how good he is, but they really felt like the actions were justified.
Back to the point about how reputation shape views. I mean, this applies to everything. When, Des Bryant, as you know, was out for a while, but next time Des is on the field and he's got a little blow up with Romo, even though it's not a real confrontational thing, it's an encouraging thing. Des will be positioned as a bad guy. Ron Artest, for some reason, is back in the NBA meta. And next time he gets attacked, people say, well, he still can't control himself. So a lot of times reputations are earned, and I get it about Paplebon. He's been kind of a clown. But my position on this, and I think people miss this on YouTube if you didn't see it in real time or however else you got the video. When you say to a grown man, especially in a dugout, I don't mean in the workforce, I mean in a baseball locker room or a dugout, when you say, I'll bleep and go right now, which is what Bryce Harper said, you better be ready to go. And he wasn't.
Before he finished that sentence, Paplebon had his hand around Bryce Harper's neck.
He did.
And that is where the outrage is, because I got so much crap yesterday from people online. I try to get I don't get a ton of action on Twitter, but when I get mentions, I always try to reply to them. I try to interact and I do the best I can. I could not keep up yesterday. It was so absurd, but constantly one after another with these comments I was getting was assault. You should be able to go to work and not be assaulted.
Oh, good.
Choking is never okay. I'm like, all of that is irrelevant. It's not the same thing.
Wow.
And I even wrote it in my piece for Jabo. I said, this is not your office. And this is a complete different situation. Plus, there was some very recent history there. This was the one point that some people got, but not everybody. And this was another thing that was missing. What happened a few days earlier when Paplebon hit Machado, which he probably shouldn't have done. That's a very debatable point.
Yep.
But when he hit Machado after the home run that Scherzer let up, the post-game comments for Harper were awful. He basically said, Manny hits the home run. He's referring to an opponent by name. He goes, Manny hits a home run, walks it off a little bit, and somebody has to hit him. That's tired. He
Yep.
didn't say Paplebon's name.
He didn't have
He's
to.
talking about his opponent by name.
I know.
He's not saying his own teammate's name.
Yeah.
And so that's what set it off. Now think about Paplebon, 34 years old, 11 years in the big leagues, and here's a 22-year-old kid, a very good one and an impact player in the game, basically calling him out and saying what he just did was tired. Something was going to happen at some point between these two guys, and Paplebon saw his opportunity. Other people want to argue, well, Harper ran the ball out. It wasn't that bad. It probably wasn't that bad, but that's where he saw that opportunity to get on him about hustle. That's when he wanted to call him out, and then Harper decided to bite back, and ultimately they ended up scrapping. The way they scrapped was not a big deal. He didn't choke him out.
I know.
Nobody was hurt. I get so many people sitting here whining about the fact that he was choking him. It is okay, because based on exactly what you said, at that point, all bets are off, and they're going to fight. And for a baseball fight, as far as what happens in clubhouses, that was very tame. I've seen way worse, and guys can tell you way worse stories, about times when there was fights in clubhouses, on planes, on buses that got bloody. I've seen it myself. This was very tame compared to what you usually see.
CJ,